Thank you. Thank you. Fred, thank you very much for being here. Catherine, thank you for inviting me, and congratulations to each of you to take time from your busy lives for this critical issue. But it is, as Catherine and I were talking, cap and trade, or cap and tax, as many of us know it, is equally, if not more intrusive on your lives than health care reform. And in some ways, even more so because you won't be able to see it at first. And so for you to take time to be here today, and I'll tell you, this is such an informed panel. I know you don't believe a politician when he says this, but I really am going to be brief. I promise. I will say this, though. Just in the last week, the March on Washington was amazing. Let me make this prediction. Acorn is not going to send you a Christmas card this year. I'm just telling you. Not going to happen. And I'll tell you, anyone who was there in the March on Washington, it was just remarkable. People traveled on their own dime so many miles to be there. We had groups from Houston who got on a bus Thursday night and rode 30 hours. 30 hours. Got there just in time for the rally. Did the march and the rally. Tens and hundreds of thousands of Americans. And then they got back on that bus again and rode 30 hours back home. And we met from the North Houston Tea Party. Suzanne Guggenheim and Patsy and all these others did such a great job. But we also heard of a elderly couple from Odessa, sitting on a park bench next to the rally at the Capitol. She was in a walker. He had a cane. They were from Odessa. They said, we didn't have the money for this. We took it out of our savings. But we need to be here for our grandkids. We have to be here for our grandkids. That's what that spirit of that walk was all about. Anyway, thank you for having me here today. We've done a presentation. Let's get right at it. Let's look at the first major source of greenhouse gas. Al Gore's home. Jody, let's look at another one. Nancy Pelosi's airplane would be the second source. There you can read. Oh, well, cows, of course. Slow down, Jody. This one says the global warming axis of evil, right there. Have some more beans, Bessie. And, of course, the greatest source of global warming, the Congress. Yeah, that's where we're at. I'm going to go through this bill really quickly, if I could, Jody. There is, as you know, this imposes a national cap on the greenhouse gases, 17% reduction by 2020, 83% reduction by 2050, which takes us in real terms back to America, back to what we were emitting in 1907, before automobiles were even invented. This is how unrealistic this is. Every consumer will pay under this bill, and as President Obama said during his campaign, my global warming cap and trade bill will make electricity rates necessarily skyrocket, according to the president, and indeed they will. And it will cost us jobs. We will see an increase by some estimates of almost doubling of our monthly utility rates because it is not government-approved fuel. As you know, Washington is going to be picking winners and losers in this bill. The winners are wind and solar. That's good energy. But oil and natural gas and nuclear energy, that's bad energy. And for states like us to rely, like most, on a blend of all these fuel sources and always looking for the cheapest and most available, every one of us is going to pay every hour of the day. And the result will not just be a hardship on our families and small businesses, but a loss of U.S. jobs, and especially loss of jobs here in Texas. If you had to draw a target around any region in the country that will pay the biggest price for cap and trade and lost jobs, it's Houston, Texas. It's right here. Because we are the energy capital of this country. We have, and they draw a bead not just on oil and natural gas, but on steel and paper and aluminum and agriculture and refineries, all of which we have in abundance in southeast Texas. The estimate by the Texas Comptroller is between 135,000 and 177,000 jobs in just a few years, and as many as the job loss of 400,000 Texans by 2030, because this thing ramps up slowly and then gathers steam. Nationally, according to Heritage, we could be losing an average of 1,100,000 good American jobs every year because of this bill. And we've gotten the comments, Dr. Fry and others, who are going to talk about this at greater depth, so I'm not going to keep running on there. And another reason we're going to see job losses is what we all know. China and India aren't going along with this scheme. They're telling us not no, but yeah. And I'll tell you this, it's so unusual. In these diplomatic talks among countries, they're so necessarily vague. At times it's hard to tell if they're talking about world trade or the World Series. It's so vague. But on global warming, on climate change, on cap and trade, they're just clear. No, we are not going to do this, and we're going to lose a lot of U.S. jobs to these countries. Good example is Nucor Steel, planning to put a plant over in southwest Louisiana, 700 jobs, a $2 billion investment, have said publicly they will take this to Brazil if this bill passes. By the way, where carbon is 4 times dirtier than it is in America today. And so those who think they're helping the climate aren't at all. No environmental benefit. The Congressional Budget Office has said again, because other major emitters will not be going along. The impact by this will be almost negligent over the next century. And those energy prices are going to have a huge price on Americans. Pay nearly $3,000 more a year, not just on the utility rates, but on your transportation, on food, on electricity, and on income. And in total, I always like to think, so what is the real cost? Just because Washington never tells us the real cost, ever. The average real cost to you and I under this cap and tax regime, $71,000. Now, everyone in this room that has an extra $71,000 laying around, please raise your hand. Truth of the matter is, it is very costly to us in a number of ways, and it's not a smart way at all to get to the next cleaner future. Jody, can I hit another one? I just did this real quick so you can look at Texas. 85% of our energy comes from coal and natural gas. And guess who are picked as losers in this bill? Coal and natural gas. Go a little further. And as you know, we all know these numbers. Jody, do we have another screen? I don't recall. Yeah, the energy profile, and we all know this. We're the ones who are fine. We're the ones who explore. We're the ones who produce. Houston region. We're the ones that have affordably for a century provided affordable energy for America to make us one of our superpowers. But under this bill, the target is on us because we're the ones producing this, and as a result, the job losses will be concentrated on Texas, and they'll be concentrated on the southeast Texas, Houston region. And when I talk about government intrusiveness, I'll just tell you, we're going to have mandates on everything from light bulbs to jacuzzi, from energy efficiency to transportation, where we'll see the California transportation emissions imposed across every state in America. It prohibits coal power plants from being created after this year unless they can sequester their carbon, and the technology, frankly, hasn't been invited to do that. There's mandates on renewable standards, and basically they create an EPA on steroids. In committee, in the Energy and Commerce Committee, they offered some common sense amendments. Republicans did. They said this cap and tax scheme, we offered an amendment that said if gas goes above $5 a gallon, we suspend this program. It was defeated. They offered amendments that said if utility rates double in America, we stop this plan. It was defeated. They offered another amendment that said if unemployment goes to 15% in America as a result of this bill, it will be suspended. Guess what? That was defeated in this bill. And I'll just tell you this. I'm going to wrap up because we have so many great speakers here. There are, as usual, government does not know best. And they believe they do. They know what's best for you in your lives and the fuel that you use, the choices you make, how you use your dollar. And whether it is the stimulus bill or the health care bill or cap and tax, it is, again, nowhere to be found in our Constitution, period. It is intrusive government, again, less freedom, more government. And the choices they will make for us are bad choices. And Jody, I'll just tell you, too, I always clean up here when people ask, well, what do you stand for? I stand for all of the above for America's energy future. We ought to be doing deep sea exploration because we're the best at it, and there's plenty there. We ought to be exploring and working hard on oil shale, on U.S. Arctic Reserve, coal to liquid, the nuclear energy, renewable energy. If we want to have a country that does not rely so greatly upon foreign countries for our daily energy needs, and the great news is we can. The great news is we can and have done it and have the technology and the resources. All we need is government to get out of our way for us to do it. So thank you for having me here today. We got to know it.